And it's about that time when we are live. Looking at the sun in 193 angstroms, we got no time to waste as there's a lot of stuff to cover. So thanks for tuning in, live streamers, and thanks for tuning in those who view the video later in the morning. We see a pretty inactive sun. We do see the Earth being buffeted by a weak coronal hole wind stream. And we see another coronal hole forming right in the Earth-facing region, as well as one forming down there in the southeast. So coronal holes are the item of the day. And let's look at another view here. 304 angstroms. And that's just today, folks. That's about 8 hours of solar activity. So April 25th, 0 hour through about 8 o'clock. And that's universal time. All right, and let's move on here. I want to make a note of something on spaceweather.com, actually 2 items. First of all, the 10.7 centimeter radial flux is back down to 69. So we are getting a little closer to the predicted values here. And that's not a good thing. That's a solar minimum condition, as is the cosmic ray environment. So a lot of channels out there are telling you that we're at a current cosmic ray maximum, the highest ever measured. However, technically the maximum was in 2009 and 2010, as we've said on this channel over and over again. Now we are approaching that same level, and there's an article here if you want to read about cosmic rays, as well as some other information like hot flights, near Earth objects, and so forth. So check out spaceweather.com. This is the site where I originally began monitoring the sun closely in about 2002. Now, for those of you who are lousy bike mechanics like me, now I know how to do a lot of weird stuff. For instance, I know how to true a wheel by tightening and loosening spokes, you know. But I'm a pretty bad mechanic, and some of the technology I don't yet understand. So, anyway. On that note,
then why the hell aren't you up there helping them?
Oh, man. I only ride them. I don't know what makes them work.
Yeah, I only ride them. I don't know what makes them work. And one of the things that makes them work is safety. Did you know that in New York City you're required to have a bell? Now, I don't have a bell because it takes up space on my cockpit, and that makes me very unhappy. But check out theveloshop.net if you need a bell. Personally, I would get this one right here, because it takes up very little space on your cockpit, and it goes ding. They're very nice, by Nog. Highly recommended if you need a bell. Most racers don't use them. Speaking of racers, I'm one, so please help me raise the $5,500 we need by May 1st, as time's running out. And next we'll look at the real-time solar wind. We see a shifting BT-BZ situation there, where the T is the total B field strength, and the Z is the influence from the poles. So we know a negative BZ is associated with earthquakes, as well as a phi angle of 180 degrees. And we don't see a phi angle of 180 degrees except for in this little area. And chances are an earthquake happened around that time. That was about 4:30 universal time. We'll look at it in a moment. We see a solar wind density slightly elevated here at 7.96 protons per cubic centimeter, and a solar wind speed of 424 kilometers per second. So this is looks like a second coronal hole wind stream hitting, very similar to the one that hit yesterday. And here's the 3-day situation. If it loads. There it is. There's the 3-day situation. And let's move on to some more data. In order to look at solarham.net, if you click on their just data section, you'll get this. There's your X-ray flares, of which there were none. Very quiet X-ray environment. And there's your GOES electron flux. And we see the characteristic coronal hole wind stream electron flux dip. That's because of protons, folks. Your yellow dwarf is the main source of Earth's cosmic rays. And let's not get into the weeds on that, as it will confuse the hell out of people. Now we see some serious perturbations here in the GOES magnetometer. We're going to look at the heliospheric magnetic environment in a moment. By the way, if you want to see the daily far side map, it's located here too. And that's old data. The KP index is at 2 due to that slightly elevated solar wind speed and density. So a little bit off of the flat line there. You didn't know where you're located. Get your head out of Uranus, which is on the opposite side of the sun, by the way. Almost at opposition, pretty much at perfect opposition right now. And here's where things will be in 7 days, including you. Approaching the gas giants. For you new viewers out there, stereo A is located right here and stereo B is right here. When we say stereo A, that stands for ahead, because the solar activity comes from this way. Even though the planets go around the sun this way, the activity goes this way, right? Sunspots, they rise in the east. You got to think of things from a heliocentric viewpoint, folks. All right. Let's look at the stereo A coronagraph here, as we do most days. And this makes it a little distorted, but it gives you the maximum viewing. So here's the most recent data from stereo A coronagraph 2. And not a lot going on there. Actually, look at the gong too. And we're looking at about 4 days worth, as we do most broadcasts. So there's a magnetic environment, and those magnetometer spikes are due to this area here. These dense plasma regions tend to be weaker magnetic fields as they're less directly connected to the sun. So the perturbations are going to continue here until this is a more smooth environment, and keep in mind it can change at any moment. We'll look at the magnetogram later, but it's pretty blank. Pretty blank. Here's the Cygnets forecast. Your inner planet's heliosphere spiral. And I would note to you new viewers out there that it is citing the field polarity here. There's positive, there's negative. That's the outline in blue and red around this. It also shows it on this image. It also does show you the current sheath and the 3-dimensional model of the interplanetary magnetic field line. It also does show you the Parker Solar Probe, which we are stoked about. Send us some data. Send us some data, Parker Solar Probe. Check out spaceweathernews.com also for some other information, such as the F2 ionosphere layer, which is looking pretty normal. Yeah, pretty normal. Pretty big charge disparity here between day and night, but not looking particularly anomalous at all. And next, we're going to look at the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard. For some reason, I know there's a reason. 10.7 centimeter radial flux progression. Oh, it's only through March. Never mind, that's the same data. All right. We would expect to see very low electron flux levels. Let's look at it globally. We apologize for any delays in the data, and we appreciate your patience. We see very low electron flux levels. Wow, exceedingly low electron flux levels there. Keep in mind this is model, and it is a forecast, and it does things like predict GPS errors. And I don't know. I don't think the electron levels are that low, folks. That looks like instrumentation errors to me. Watch the red portion just vanish. Poof. That probably didn't happen. So anyway, looks like anomalous data. If you live in an equatorial region, let us know if you're getting GPS errors at noontime, because if you're getting less errors than normal, well, maybe the data is correct. Next, we'll look at magnetosphere movies, as we do most days. First, we're going to look at velocity, and then density, and then pressure, and we're going to let them all play. I know it's boring, but part of this channel's purpose is to archive data. So this will be on YouTube, at least 4 hours of it, which is what's being depicted on this video. And no, we're not making a 4-hour video. Since you can't request this data from Michigan, we at least archive a bit of it, and we have seen some events. Not on these particular ones, but the channel has quite a few pretty serious shockwaves. We try to live stream when something's going to happen. So if it's possible for us to live stream when a coronal mass ejection hits or something like that, we try to cover that in as real a time as we possibly can. So we see a little higher density there, and we see some pressure fluctuations here, as you would expect with the variations in the solar wind. The Earth is still in a charging mode there a little bit, as you see a higher pressure in the magnetotail than in the bow shock. So let me move that up a little bit so you can see the slider and the date stamps and get that stuff off the screen. I'll let that play through once more. We're going to try to speed things up after this because there's a lot of stuff to cover. We're going to look at the ground magnetic perturbations only on the global basis, not on the polar basis. We'll just look at the equatorial plane, not the polar planes, as there's probably not a whole lot going on there. Let's play through it anyway. Please load. Thank you. And we actually do see quite a few perturbations there. For your new viewers or you folks that are not familiar with the polar excursion, we've got a pole over Canada, we've got a pole over Siberia, and we've got a south pole migrating thusly toward Western Australia. While your compass points here, if you start getting closer to this pole, your compass will eventually point at this pole, and vice versa with this one. So there are some folks monitoring it, so please check out our endorsed channels. Such as Maverick Star Reloaded. Just head to youtube.com/smashomash/channels. Here's the earthquake scenario. We got a 4.6 in Zambia. That's a pretty rare spot for a quake, folks. And we got a nice frac quake going on in Tennessee, I would imagine. Here's a location. If anybody felt that one, please leave a comment. It looks like near Dyersburg. I'll bet you there are oil wells there. No, I'm not anti-oil, folks. No, I'm not anti-oil. Here's one in Xizang. I think it's pronounced Xizang. Let me know, you Asian-speaking folks out there. I'm not so good with the Asian pronunciations. Western Xizang. I was not aware that was a place. Is that a country? I feel geographically deprived. Looks like it's in the northwestern Tibetan Plateau, folks. I've learned something today. All right, we also see a 4.5 in China, a 4.9 in Papua New Guinea, 5.1 in Indonesia. Here's a Chilean quake at depth. So be on the lookout for a larger quake at the surface there. Very deep quake at Fiji. So same scenario for Fiji. Be prepared for a high level 5 at the surface. Here's a 4.9 in Japan, a 4.7 in Indonesia. So we see a little earthquake downtick, and these areas are still experiencing a massive and extended magnitude 7 earthquake drought. So please have a plan, because in the event of a disaster, we implore you to be a liability. I mean an asset and not a liability. So heads up those areas. We got coronal holes facing the earth, one in the south and one right on the equator, and a magnetic connection to the sun could happen at any moment. And those are associated with earthquakes if you were not aware. Now let's look at windy to check the pressure maps. First, we'll look in the Chilean area. We're going to let this advance to see if we see any low pressure anomalies in the forecast. There is a bit of a persistent low there east of the Andes. So I would say this area would be the alert center for South America. Next, we'll look at the area around Fiji, Tonga, New Zealand, etc. We'll advance it here again. And we do see a persistent low there over Fiji. So these are all earthquake risks, folks. Also, we see a powerful low there just southwest of the Kamchatka Peninsula. And just a stretched out low pressure system around Japan. So these are all risk factors for earthquakes, folks. Please stop doing that. Thank you. Windy.com, a great site with a great mobile app, but it will do things you don't want it to do unless you do all the settings. So next we'll look at volcanoes. Volcano rundown. Sakurajima, back on the list. Exploded, producing a 5,000 foot ash plume. Tacona, 7,000 foot ash plume there. Let me reiterate that. 7,000 foot ash plume there. Fuego, ongoing volcanic emissions. Nevado de Ruiz with a 21,000 foot ash plume, new emissions. And don't try to do a triple jump over Reventador as it's producing a 16,000 foot ash plume. Please support us on Patreon. Be our 4th patron. $1 a month makes a huge difference to this channel. Also, if you want to do a one-time donation, you want to be anonymous, you want the cash to go directly to me, support us on PayPal. set up a reoccurring payment, as some of our viewers have. And for that, we thank you. Also, check us out on minds.com. And that's minds.com/smAsho. And there's yesterday's live stream. Now, I don't tweet. However, smAsho staff puts our videos up every day on Twitter to help our viewers to share. We are having trouble getting to 1,400 subscribers for some reason. And we are massive entropy busters on this channel. If you're wondering what this is, that's the core of the Andromeda Galaxy. I incorporated that into the graphics. This channel is 100% original, by the way, folks. 100% original. The music, the graphics, it's all legit. So anyway, follow us on Facebook also. That's facebook.com/smAshomash and facebook.com/groups/entropybusters. Got it? We're going to talk about Facebook later, and it's not pretty. And neither is Mark. Hey, Mark, Facebook kind of sucks. Sorry, Mark, but the Facebook sucks. The software is garbage. So check out smAshomash.org, which is totally under construction. We just made sure we grabbed these sites so nobody tried to bid us up on them. And .org is a real thing. We're looking to make your donations tax deductible by the end of the year. Follow us on Instagram also, instagram.com/smAshomash. The mission shall be, and is, to assist, study, and report on the ongoing formation of a unified theory of physics, to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space, weather, and Earth effects, to connect to and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach, to demonstrate cutting-edge proof of concept solutions to problems, such as growing an entire bean plant out of Goya garbanzo beans bought on the store shelf, to publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, 3 of which are already in the works, to assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomenon to optimize value, reduce risk, liability, save lives, resources, and adapt no matter what the adversity is, and to not be ossified in our beliefs, to treat those who are with love, respect, and inclusion of the scientific discussion. So that's the mission, folks. Please support it in whatever way you can, whether it's sharing on social media or sending cash. It makes a huge difference. Even $1 a month. It really does. It increases the likelihood that we'll keep making these videos. So we see a long convergence line stretching from right over my head, practically, where that pin is located in eastern Pennsylvania there. That's the Lehigh Valley. And that's where I, a.k.a. Daniel Nigro, a.k.a. smAshomash. We're not going to go into my other nicknames, but we will note one thing. Jesse Philibrandt, shout out to Jesse Philibrandt. Let us know if you're experiencing some kind of Sasquatch farts, because that is a clear Sasquatch fart situation. Perhaps a dimensional gateway was opened, some kind of a portal. Now, we don't know if that area is covered with snow right now or how frigidly cold it is, but it looks like rain there. So let us know if there's fog, dimensional portals, Sasquatch, Yeti, Bigfoot, any UFOs containing Chewbacca or anything like that. Please put in the comments. Let's zoom in on this area over Arkansas and Louisiana, as it looks pretty nasty. Here's a Doppler radar, thanks to AccuWeather.com. So shout out Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. Missouri's about to get hit. Tennessee, Kentucky. Some pretty serious storms there. Look at some more data, such as lightningmaps.org. If you're not familiar with it, well, check it out. It's awesome. We don't do things like bike races in severe thunderstorms, and you shouldn't even be outside during one. Tallulah, you're going to hear a boom right now, Tallulah. So lots of lightning coming down there. Heads up to Arkansas and Louisiana and Houston. Houston getting pounded. Just on the outskirts. I think it's moved through, folks. We're expecting a flow of generally in this direction. I'm hearing unexplainable noises, but I don't care. The stream must continue. We're going to show you a detailed water vapor map of what's going on down there. In fact, let's look at the shortwave infrared radiation here for once to see what it's going to show us. Now, this is what we use to see clouds when they're not visible via the visible satellite. It's just a different wavelength. There's a good idea of what's going on in the cloud layer, although keep in mind this isn't the visible satellite. This is a shortwave radiation. Let me see here. Yeah, 3.9 nanometers. So there's that system. And let's go to the water vapor to show you the convergence that's causing that. I apologize for all the clicking. Speed that up. And that'll give you folks down in those south central areas some idea of when the storms are going to pass and how they're interacting. So we see this dry air mass being kind of split in two. We see a whole bunch of Hall current streamers coming out of it. All these parallel lines here. Awesome examples of Hall current streamers. You can clearly see them there. Shout out Ben Davidson. The sky is electric, folks. And part of weather is charge equilibrium. We're not going to get into it. We're just going to move on because there's so much stuff to cover. Look at cosmic rays as we haven't for a couple of days. There's Apatity and there's Barentsburg. Here's Athens. Look at Mexico City. Looks like a small spike there has just subsided. Here's Moscow, who is back to returning data. And for that, we thank you. And last, we'll look at Oulu and 2 Antarctica monitors. There's Oulu. There's DOMC Antarctica. And there's DOMB Antarctica. We do have links to this site here that has all the stations. Some of these links are dead and will not work. That's why we only look at certain ones. We like ones that return data regularly and on a daily basis, preferably at least on a daily basis. If you enjoy the music that we usually play throughout the entire videos, check out SoundCloud. We have links to that also. This is most of the older stuff here. So it's soundcloud.com/Daniel-Nigro-2. Really, a really catchy URL. So thanks, SoundCloud. Also check out soundclick.com, soundclick.com/GoldenCat-Productions. This is the more produced stuff. And these songs are available for purchase. For instance, Dr. Steelshank from the Professor Krookenstein album is only 99 cents, so add it to your MP3 collection. We're not going to look at global warming, although there are the charts. And there's 9 feet of snow on Greenland from coast to coast. We're not going to go there. We're just going to bypass all of these tabs and talk once again about the Jerusalem artichoke. We're stoked about having some of these. Now, one little tip. If you grow Jerusalem artichokes, while they are perennials, you still must do things like dig them up and fertilize them. If you just let them grow, they will exhaust all of the nutrients in the soil. They also can turn into an invasive species, so be careful what you do with them. The best bet is to put them in a very controlled area. We're going to grow these. This is actually a type of a sunflower, by the way. And we're going to actually grow this in the flower garden. So it's going to look like a straggly sunflower. And it won't be evident from looking above that the food is a tuber. She wrote the Patriot Act, and her next job is with Facebook. So she's been reducing your privacy, if you're an American, since 2003, I think it is. Oh, 2001. Okay, yeah, 2001. It's great. It's great. So she served in the Bush administration, and now she's going to work for Mark. So she's gonna take bad software, gonna take bad software, gonna take bad software and make it worse. Gonna take bad software and make it worse, folks. She's gonna be the legal counsel. She's gonna help Facebook spy on you a little bit better, lose a few more members, and probably help China institute its social credit system and a whole bunch of other 1984 style Orwellian things as Facebook is on the way out. That's what happens when you ban us from doing things, Facebook. You suck at your job. You should be objective, but you're a political organization. So here's a middle finger to you, Mark, and Facebook. That's why we're on Minds, because Facebook is garbage. And it's because of the software, folks. It's because of the software. Here's a little human health article for you. 11 things that people think are awful that actually aren't. We'll go through it real quick. Fatty foods. It turns out that bad health outcomes are from high-carb diets, not high-fat diets. Gluten, you realize only 1% of people worldwide have celiac disease. Eggs, eating eggs doesn't raise your cholesterol in your bloodstream, folks. High cholesterol is from your liver. Caffeine stunts your growth and messes with your health. Yeah, I'm drinking coffee right now, so. Carbonated water is bad for you. It's not. It's just tasty because of the bubbles. And it makes a great alcoholic mixer, too. It doesn't cause kidney stones. It's all BS. Cheese is like crack. Now, this article didn't understand why they say cheese is like crack, and it's because a pleasure center turns on in your brain when you eat cheese, and it's one of the same pleasure centers that are turned on by cocaine, and they didn't understand this, so they didn't know what they were searching for. But I used to be a psychology major, so I kind of know this stuff. I'm sort of stay read up on all of this sort of stuff. And yeah, turns out pizza, according to them, was involved in this myth. I don't know. Artificial sweeteners, I avoid these like the plague, although this article claims that they're not bad for you. So I wouldn't eat them. I wouldn't recommend you do. But GMOs, some GMOs are actually better for you than non-GMOs. GMOs aren't inherently bad. It depends on what they are. If they're full of things that poison bees, like neonicotinoids, then they're probably bad because they poison you and the bees. Salt causes heart problems and weight gain. Not true, folks. Not true. Salt your fries. It's not going to raise your blood pressure. It's not going to increase your risk of death. Let's just say that. No strong evidence, according to the Journal of Hypertension, No strong evidence that reducing salt decreased people's risk of heart attack, stroke, or death, even in those who had high blood pressure. It will raise your blood pressure a little bit, as it'll cause you to put more water into your bloodstream. So you add more water to a pipe, you get higher pressure, right? It's the same thing. And lastly, carbs. Carbs aren't necessarily bad for you, but bad carbs are bad for you because they cause a huge glycemic spike. You get an insulin spike, an insulin dump, and if you eat a giant plate of rice and you have a sugar crash afterwards, that's why. Fish are all high in mercury and will make you sick. Also not true. It's only in certain fish, like large predator fish, who have very long lifespans and spend time eating fish constantly for decades. Here's another article, a total clickbait nonsense article from SciTech Daily, and for that, we lol at you. Dark matter collaboration observes rarest event ever recorded. Oh my gosh. They didn't find dark matter, folks. Guess what they found? They saw an isotope decay. Oh, it takes more than 1 trillion times longer than the age of the universe for this to happen, and the article is complete and utter nonsense. Now, we like Rensselaer. However, guess what they didn't do? Find dark matter. Guess why? Because it doesn't exist. We'll put links in the description after the live stream. Now, who heard about the Mars quake? The InSight lander thinks that it felt a tremor. Let's play the audio for you. No, YouTube, don't ban us. We're going to shrink this down real small. And we're going to turn the audio on. There's the wind. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but we'll leave links to the article so you can watch this yourself. It's located at space.com, and it originally showed up in, oh, I don't know, probably the Mars InSight lander page. There's the original article, and we will link that, as it's probably the same video. No, they didn't put the video there. All right, well, we'll link you to this article then. What else do we have? There's at least one more here. Oh, there's a crazy crab. Crazy 93 million year old crab. And I know. I better look at my tabs here because I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so here's this odd crab. Most consider it the weirdest crab ever. And it's doing things to kind of throw evolution in the garbage, which is a thing that's been happening recently, as we're discovering species that ought to not be there based on estimations of how life evolved on the planet. Here's a 3D image of this thing. It's a great video. Check this out. It shows you the fossil that it came from. Totally awesome. This thing has allegedly eyeballs with no eye stalks, no, what do you call it? No eyelids, I guess. It's a very odd animal. And it's believed to be the first swimming arthropod. It's got paddle-like legs to facilitate the swimming. And yeah, 95 million year old chimera species. Interesting and causing science to go, huh? Also, we got a great article here on phys.org about coal-derived quantum dots as an antioxidant. This is super good news, and you may want to open up a coal mine in your backyard, folks. Yeah, they took this out of bituminous coal, the worst kind of coal, you know, the least dense. Actually, I think lignite's less dense, but anyway, we're not going to get into a geology lesson here, but this was pretty heavily studied, and it looks like these graphene quantum dots are able to protect cells. So basically what they did is they put cells in a petri dish and they poured hydrogen peroxide on them, And cell death was reduced significantly because of these quantum dots. So check out the article, super interesting, and let's move on before this thing is even longer than it already is. We're going to show you the most current view of the sun once again. And I don't know why I'm on April 18th there. I clicked on the wrong week. All right, so there we go. There's today. We're looking at 9 hours. We're going to show you the colored magnetogram to see if there's any sort of activity popping up. And then we're going to open up the chat to see if any people have popped up. And we do see some fields going on there. I mean, it's pretty weak activity though. Once that coronal hole wind stream ends, the magnetosphere is going to go right back into an ultra weak state unless your local yellow dwarf does something about it. I know I clicked on it. It just didn't work. Who out there has had a wrestling match with their software recently? You live in a world where most software is nothing but spyware. Bloated spyware, not designed to work at all, just designed to spy on you. Yes. Like Facebook. Facebook with its horrendous software. And Google. Google's got a lot of horrendous software too. Probably the two biggest miscreants are Google and Facebook because their software is so offensively horrific that I can't click on this button. See what I mean? It's freezing up my system, and this computer was built as a gaming rig. It's not that fast by today's standards, but it's pretty significant. All right, so welcome everybody. Thanks for joining smAsho staff and Carlo Jan and Das Velo and Norin McGuire. How'd you do in your time trial, Das Velo? How about a song? This one's called Journey to the Center of the Hearse. Take that however you like. It's just a song title. Don't take it too seriously. Carlo Jan, salt will mess with your blood pressure, but it's not the cause of your high blood pressure, probably. You got to make sure you have all your electrolytes. So you got to look at potassium also. See, as a cyclist, I'm aware of potassium because potassium gets depleted chronically in bicyclists. It just has to do with the sport. I'm not exactly sure the mechanism behind it, but many cyclists have high blood pressure, and if we just simply consume some potassium, it brings down our blood pressure. I mean, I've eaten a spoonful of peanut butter and watched my blood pressure drop 12 points. Now, maybe it was the placebo effect, but it worked. And I've repeated that a few times, so I'm pretty sure it's legit. Hold on. You're doing a 7-day fast, and on day 2, you do a bike race? Sounds like a bunch of BS, Das Velo. You nailed the time trial. Okay. I never heard of anybody doing a fast while bike racing. It seems like a ridiculous idea. You have some C60 NORAM? You're not real constant about talking, though, so I don't know what that means. Thanks for joining Macasteel 2012. Macasteel 2012. Nice. I do practice intermittent fasting and the ketogenic diet, folks. I cheat regularly because I need to in order to do the cycling. I often, when I need a really high output, I often consume carbs. But I've trained my body to want to burn fat, and the advantages of that are huge. And we're not just talking about weight loss here; we're talking about general health. As intermittent fasting is one of the most important and easy things to extend your life. It works in rats. It works in people. It's absolutely clinically proven. It's a known thing. Maybe check out Dr. Eric Berg, another one of our endorsed channels. All right, I'm not going to give any drug advice. Jeez. I know a hell of a lot more about the human body than most people in my life, but I'm certainly not going to start adjusting your drugs over YouTube. Cheers. Ah, yes, the greatest Rush album ever. I don't consider it the greatest Rush album ever. It's good. I don't know. I think they're all the greatest Rush album ever. Anyway, it's about time to get out of here, folks, as I got a lot of stuff to do. And so thanks for tuning in. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. We are outie. Remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink. And if you drink, stare at the sun and don't drive. Try to understand the physics if you can. And we'll be doing it all later, possibly even later today. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks, donors, subscribers, etc. It means a lot. So since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.